Welcome everyone to the October 8th meeting of the Warren County Finance Committee. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Sokol, Mr. Kenny on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Action agenda item 3, request for transfer of funds. We have added an item that was approved in at personnel. You could mark it as put it right under the request from the Treasurer's Office. It deals with the transfer of contingency funds of $4,173 from the contingency fund to pay for the part-time HR position through the end of the year. That would be for the period November 20 through December 31st. It was approved at the personnel meeting prior to this meeting. Let's move on. Item 2A, request for a contingency fund transfer in the amount of $1,134.75 to budget code A1325436, County Treasurer, advertising fees to pay for a supplemental notice of foreclosure. Chair will entertain a motion. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 2B, dealing with the HR position, $4,173 to come from the contingency fund for the HR part-time position. Chair will entertain a motion regarding this. Mr. Merlino, thank you. Second? Mr. Kenny, very good. Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Dickinson is opposed.
Could we request that be a separate item in the transfers for the full board meeting? I know Joan can pull it out and put it in a separate resolution. Could we have that?
Oh, without objection, we can have that. Yes, we can have that.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. So let's act on B first. All those in favor, we have Mr. Dickinson opposed. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Dickinson opposed. Carried. Move back on 3-1, request for transfer of funds attached for committee approval. Chair will entertain a motion to approve item 3-1. Mr. Sokol, Mr. Taylor, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. Item 3A from the Health Services Committee, request to amend the 2014 county budget to reflect the receipt of unanticipated revenues and appropriations in the amount of $742 for a cost of living adjustment to the Family Health Program's Children with Special Health Care Needs Grant. Chair will entertain a motion on 3A for approval.
A through E.
We have a motion from Mr. Kenny to approve 3A through 3E. Do we have a second? Ms. Wood, thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving 3A through 3E signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 4, referral from the Human Services Committee, Employment and Training Administration, request to amend the 2014 county budget to reflect the receipt of unanticipated revenues and appropriations in the amount of $48,016 from the Federal Trade Adjustment Act as reimbursement for the training of 10 dislocated workers. Chair will entertain a motion on item 4 to bring for discussion. Ms. Wood, Mr. Sokol, thank you. Discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 5, referral from the Public Works Committee, DPW, request to increase capital project number H342.9550280 Blair Road over Millbrook in the amount of $195,000 to include local match funding to be transferred from budget code D.9950910 transfer capital projects. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion. Mr. Merlino, Mr. Dickinson on the second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Item 6, referral from the Support Services Committee, Information Technology. Request to appropriate $117,582 from the Computer Reserve Budget Code A 895.00 to Budget Code A 1680.220.1 Information Technology Office Equipment Reserve for network upgrades at the County Center and the Sheriff's Office. Chair will entertain a motion regarding item 6. Mr. Dickinson, second. Mr. Taylor, thank you. Any discussion? Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of item 6 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6 is carried. Item 7, request items to be discussed by the county administrator. I'm showing none.
Correct.
I do have an item that did come on the table today. Some of you may remember at last month's Health Services Committee, there was the approval of work, emergency work really, plumbing work to replace galvanized pipes at Westmount. At that time, they thought the amount was something in the order of magnitude of $20,000. It turns out it was, the work was bid, and the amount came in at $6,875. This item never came to the board for approval, so what we need to do is move it through finance and get it to the board, for approval.
Correct, Mr.
Because it's a capital project. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Sokol, thank you. Any discussion on this? So the good news is it's less money. The bad news is that hopefully they're moving forward with this, Paul.
Yes, they are, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of the approving the capital project and the amount stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Then you got a separate agenda.
Okay.
Cricket.
What are you doing for the rest of the day?
All right, there's an addendum, that should be in the back side of your packet, as well. Let's move to item 8 then, first, before we move to the addendum. Chair will entertain a motion to approve, actions taken at the Personnel Committee, prior to this meeting. That would be items represented in your packet by 2A, 2B, and 3. Mr. Kenny, thank you. Second. Mr. Taylor, any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of item 8 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8 is carried. Now we'll move on to the agenda addendum. Item 1.1, request for transfer of funds, which is attached for our approval. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion. Evelyn, Dennis Dickinson on the second. Any discussion regarding this? Item 1.1, there being none. All those in favor of item 1.1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 1.1 is carried. We have some requests from the county administrator. Item 2A, a request for a transfer of $3,000 from the contingency account to budget code A 4010-230.1 Health Services Auto Equipment Reserve to purchase an additional vehicle for the Health Services Department. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Merlino on the second. Thank you. Paul, what do we have here?
Mr. Chairman, this is a move to avoid an expenditure next year. We have a reserve fund, as you know, for vehicles as well as computers. And next year, the reserve fund is going to be used to purchase some rather large vehicles. So therefore, if we don't do something this year to buy some of the planned vehicles for next year, we would have to actually raise the budget in 2015. So the thought was, if there was some money available this year, we could buy 2 of the health services vehicles that were planned for next year, but buy them this year, and therefore we could keep the reserve the same, so we won't impact the 2015 budget. So that's what this is all about. It's taking the balance of the $13,000 out of the vehicle reserve. It's also providing for a $3,000 contingent fund, and then Pat Auer would pick up the rest of the money that she needs through her own budget and buy 2 vehicles. And then next year, we would plan to buy only one and then more instead of the original 4, and then buy the other vehicles that are needed for the county, so the reserve fund will still work. And we won't have to increase it, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Any questions for the county administrator? So we're accelerating the purchase of these vehicles,
Correct.
and the
So
only out-of-budget, expenditure would be the transfer of the $3,000.
That's correct, Mr.
I
Chairman.
believe A and B are connected.
Yeah.
They are.
They are. Those that made the motion on 2A, amend your motion to include B. That being done, any further questions for the administrator? There being none, all those in favor of items 2A and B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2A and B is carried. Any other business to come before the Finance Committee at this time? Motion to adjourn. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. Taylor, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.